Hello. Have you ever wanted to see some of your transaction information when it comes to your product, either your raw materials, your WIP, or your finished beer? Um, Either because you had to answer a very specific question or you were just interested to see what some of the different volumes were. And you looked in your ERP and it was really difficult to be able to find the right level of information to give you some insights. Um, Let me show you a dashboard within Tableau that's taking transactional information out of the ERP, grouping it together and summarizing it in such a way that I think would be very helpful for you to really understand what's going on with the different either consumption or production of different materials within your brewery. We're going to look at a few different things here. We're going to group different products into categories. We're going to see what's coming in and what's going out with each of those. And then for kind of the main activities we want to watch, in this case, it's going to be purchasing, WIP, or brewing, and then the finished goods we're selling. We're going to be able to break that down by individual item. All right, cool. Here's our transactions dashboard. Let me take a few minutes and get you going on what you're looking at here. I guess one quick thing to mention is this would have a date filter. So you could look at whatever time period you were interested in. In this case, I just have it showing all of 23 so far. So that's the data we'll be looking at. Okay, so now we're going to break our inventory into a few different groupings. And we're going to look at what activity was associated with that group. And I have these sorted kind of by the normal order of business. So let me just kind of explain that real quick, and then we'll look at some of the details. So kind of the first step in brewing a beer is we need to buy some of our ingredients, right? So that's what this section is here. Then we're going to consume those ingredients. So basically, we're going to transform them into WIP, or work in process of our beer. We're going to start that brewing process, and we're going to finish it. So that's what these two categories are here in sequence. This is going to show us what actual finished good type of beer we produced. So something in a keg or in a can ready to go out. And then finally, last step in the process, hopefully, is that we sell some beer. So that's what we're showing here. And then we're going through the major categories in each of those sections. So when it comes to ingredients, we're looking at hops, malt. Those are our two main purchase categories. And then we have other kind of listed together here. And then consuming, we're going to look at those same things. So how many hops, or how much hops, malt, and other we're consuming. We're looking at wort started and then bright consumed. So we're going to use this as a starting point to the brewing process and an ending point, basically. And then when it comes to beer we produced and then things we sold, we're going to break that down into cans and kegs. Okay, so you've probably skipped ahead of me a little bit to look at this chart, but so that's taking each of these different categories. And then the green, kind of the green part of the graph is showing we're creating inventory. So either we're purchasing something or we're producing beer. And then the red side of the graph is going to be we're consuming something. So maybe we're using an ingredient as we're brewing beer, or we sell some beer. And right now what I'm doing is I'm taking everything to the dollar amount of the inventory. One thing we run into when we're dealing with kind of very different products is when we're looking at just quantity, we can have something that really throws off the total quantity. So we're kind of normalizing this onto a similar scale by just taking it all to the cost of the product. So that's what you're seeing here in the chart. So I won't go through each one of these, but you'll see, I'll pick out a few. So in this period, we purchased $48,000 worth of hops as to how to understand this. We started beer worth about $160,000. We sold kegs of about 60,000 is how you could kind of work through this chart here. Okay, and then further off to the right-hand side, we're going to look at the, in analytics, this is called a spark line, but all it's trying to do is show you what a rough idea of what the trend has been for each of these. So a few things kind of stand out on here. One that's interesting is if we look at hops, hops really, really spiked up. So we made a major hop purchase the middle of January. So that would be something that's interesting. So even though we've had a lot of volume on it, it really only happened once. This isn't one that we just have a lot of volume day in and day out. On the other hand, and this is probably pretty obvious, but when we're looking at hops consumed, right, that's a lot more steady by week. Even though we do have some weeks that are a little bit more than others, we don't see like a major spike like we did up here. And you can kind of let your eyes go down through some of these recipes and just see what the different transaction patterns are there. Okay, so then down below, we're going to get a little bit more detailed. So in this case, we want to see of our purchases, what were the main ingredients. So we're just listing those out right here. Similar to above, if we wanted to see what the trend was, we could just hover over one of those. And like we saw also above, the hops category, we really purchased a lot in January. So that's what like this trend is showing. On the other hand, for malt purchases, this is a lot more steady throughout the year. So even though it does spike a bit by week, it's not like we saw with the hops category. So you could just get a flavor of these different ingredients, what our purchase pattern was. All right, next up, we're going to look at the WIP produced. And again, you could hover over each of those and see kind of what the pattern is there. In this case, beer F, I have this made all this data generic, but beer F in this case is the one we produced the most of at about $100,000. Okay, and then finally, we're going to look at what we've sold. So these are generic beers again, but we can see the different sales patterns for each of these. So hopefully this is a good kind of high-level dashboard to show different transaction trends. So if you were to look in your ERP system, a lot of times you can like see transactions for an individual item, or maybe even a group of items, but it's hard to get like this full picture and be able to bounce from high level trending by category and like consumption type all the way down to each individual item. And then also see totals for this specific period, but look at trending over time. Okay, so that's our dashboard. We could use it to find what recent patterns have looked like. Has anything stood out as unusual? We could see how much beer we've been selling and also how much we've been producing. Do those seem to basically be in line, or are we building or subtracting beer inventory? And then we could see what beers we've been selling the most. And then based on that information, that can give us an idea of what we should be brewing next. So I hope that was an interesting look at kind of a high-level transaction dashboard. We're going to look at another one on another one of these videos that's going to get a little bit more detailed when it comes to your finished beer that has different transactions. If you have any questions on this, or if you'd like to see your information plugged into a dashboard like this and see what insights we can find on your transactions, please contact me. My email is jeremy@centralcoast-analytics.com. Again, that email is jeremy@centralcoast-analytics.com. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.